Buenas noches. Awesome. Oh, love you guys too. It's beautiful to see all your faces. So thank you, Jeff, for those touching words. 3 years ago, EHTP's core values and foundational beliefs gave rise to the creation of the James Baldwin Award. By creating this award, we are able to pay homage to our community and famous heroes in East Harlem. James Baldwin is a world treasure whose literary genius paved the way for generations. Yeah. This award celebrates the writers and activists who assumed the mantle of the written word to build love, equity, and justice. At this moment, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce an extraordinary woman whose literary contributions have left more than just an impression on American literature. Her work as an author intricately weaves themes of culture, identity, and the female experience with elegance and humility. Sandra is known for her outstanding of cultural duality, a theme prominently reflected in her work. Something East Harlem and New York City in general are very familiar with. Her life, like her books, is a testament to the power of her words and the beauty of diversity. She is a recipient of numerous awards, including the National Medal of Arts from former President Barack Obama, and the Arthur MacArthur Fellowship. Yes. Let's give her a round of applause. She's coming. These accolades only hint at the profound influence Sandra has had on the literary world and beyond. It is with great honor and admiration that we present the James Baldwin Award to the trailblazing author, poet, and artist, Sandra Cisneros. Thank you. I also want to highlight that the mosaic we're handing to Sandra today, which Nyasha is holding, is beautifully made by Manny Vega, a community artist that's here in this very room right now. Manny, please raise your hand. Manny has been a true partner to us from the mosaic outside to the mosaic that's soon to be in our brand new high school building. So Sandra, thank you so much. I am humbled, I am honored. We're so happy that you're able to join us today.
Thank you. Ahora sí le toca. Thank you so much. I think you're giving the award to the wrong person. You are the awardees in my book, and I look up to you because you are the good news in a time of darkness. And I often read the news and quote the Wicked Witch of the West. What a world, what a world. And we need the good news. So sometimes we have to create that good news. And each of you here, all together, have brightened my life. This award means so much to me because when my first book, a novel, rather my first novel because I had a book before that, my first novel, The House Among the Street, was published in 1984, the very month that I moved to South Texas, to San Antonio. And I had put a lot of work in that book. Started it when I was 22 and finished it thanks to a National Endowment to the Arts grants at 28. If I hadn't gotten that grant, I would still be writing the book. So I'm very, very grateful that I was able to quit my job and focus on my passion. It appeared in South Texas, as I said, and the very first thing I got was a bashing by my Chicano writer colleagues because they felt it wasn't a political book. So to get this award today, named after a writer I admire for his novels, his activism, for his light in the community is an affirmation, a blessing, a confirmation. And, at this age, 68, to say, well, I think I was right all along. It was a political book, and everything that I've been doing since is a culmination of my concern for my community. So I thank you so much for this award. I was very taken by your motto, love, liberate, heal. So I want to talk about each of those things very briefly because my suitcase didn't arrive on time and my cowboy boots are somewhere lost in the planet. So I had to buy these shoes, and I have not worn high heels this high since the disco era. So after this talk, I'm going to walk around barefoot, I think. But anyway, very briefly, healing. James Baldwin said a child cannot be taught by anyone who despises him. And I had very low self-esteem, as I was sharing with the students today. I went to a school that was run by, I like to say, the unhappy housewives of God. Now, it was not their fault that they were unhappy. I'm sure they wanted to do other things than teach 44 students of mixed grades in a classroom. And as such, a lot of children slipped through the cracks. And I was one of those children. And I had such low self-esteem, I never raised my hand. I hardly ever talked in class. And when I did, I had to go, because it was the first time I would talk all day. And I didn't know that other children came to school and were not afraid to speak. I didn't know that there was such a thing as a school like this one, where you have teachers and family and community loving you and helping you to succeed. But I want to talk about something that happened that was a miracle. In 1966, Chicago had a terrible winter. And we lived in brownstones like the ones you see out here on the top floor of a building that had seen better days. And we paid $50 a month rent. We were 7 children, 2 adults, so my father needed to look for low rent. But in 1966, a miracle happened, and the pipes froze. We had no water. We had to go downstairs 4 flights and borrow water from our neighbor who would put a rubber garden hose from their kitchen sink out the window in February in Chicago. And we would fill up milk gallons that at that time were glass, maybe you remember that if you're my age, and carry them up 4 flights of stairs. When my father saw that his children were lugging water up and down in the middle of winter, he sold his beloved red Chevy station wagon that he hadn't paid for yet, and he borrowed money from everybody he knew that would loan it to him, and he bought a down payment on our very first home, which became the model for the house on Monga Street on the other side of town. Unlike the character in my book, we loved that house. And we especially liked that when you opened the faucets, water came out. And when you flushed it, the waste was swept away. It was just a great house. And with this move came a move to the Sisters of Christian Charity, which are blessed with that name because they really are Christian charity. And there was a special teacher who I'm ashamed to say I don't know her name because she was only my teacher for half of a semester. And she did something no teacher had ever done in my life. I was drawing and coloring, and she took the paper off my desk, and my heart leapt because anytime a teacher singled you out, it meant you were going to be set as an example of what you should not do. And she took my page to the front of the class, and I was just trembling. And she held it up and she said, "Look what our new student has drawn. Isn't this beautiful?" I had never been singled out for something beautiful, and I didn't know that drawing was a special gift. And I was sure this teacher was confused because I wore little blue pointy glasses that I'd gotten from the Sears, and I thought, she must think I'm smart. Well, I felt sorry for her, so I did something I had never done at the Unhappy Housewives of God School. I started to raise my hand, and my grades went from C's and D's at this new school to C's and B's and A's by the time I graduated in the 8th grade. And I think if I had not met that special teacher, whose name I can't remember, but I will never forget her, I would not be standing here before you. She made me understand I was loved and worth something. I also have to thank my parents. My mother never went beyond 9th grade and regretted it. My father abandoned first year of the UNAM, Universidad de Mexico, and regretted it. So maybe they weren't the best marriage, but they were the best parents. And as a teen, they pushed education when maybe in our neighbors' homes that wasn't a priority. Every Sunday we went to the Chicago museums that back then were free on the days when my father had his day off. And every Saturday, my mother took us to the public library. Librarians and teachers especially helped to launch House on Mongo Street, and I want to give them gratitude. For Liberate, I think my mother and father knew an education would liberate us from poverty, and they always, always pushed us. And as far as love, one thing I know for sure, and I said it this morning, I learned it from writing House. Whatever you create with love on behalf of those you love, siempre sale bonito. Whatever you create with love on behalf of those you love with no ego, with no personal agenda, siempre sale bonito. It will always turn out well. And that's I think, a law of the universe that my life has taught me. So this award tonight I accepted on behalf of my ancestors and their migrations, forced or otherwise. My mother's parents were forced by a war in Mexico to meander into the United States. And even though they could not read nor write until they were elders, they had have a lot of courage and a lot of humility to make it all the way to Chicago working as laborers. My father's people were Sephardic Jews. I don't know all their stories of conversion and migrations, but I know I am a part of their continuance. I thank my mother for her activism. I thank my father for his steadfast love and a life lived laboring honestly. I thank them both for their supreme belief that an education would improve our lives. The Chicago Public Library, the Museums of Chicago, the teacher in the 6th grade who believed I was worth something and nurtured me when I was flailing. I thank my blood ancestors, grandparents Jose Eleuterio Cordero y Maria Felipe Anguiano, who could not read nor write, as I said, and my paternal grandparents, Enrique Cisneros and Trinidad del Moral. I thank my literary ancestors, Hans Christian Andersen, Carl Sandburg, Gwendolyn Brooks, Elena Poniatowska, James Baldwin. I thank Divine Providence and the Frozen Pipes, the Chicago winter of 1966. I thank you all tonight.